Hi there, guys. This is the Average Joe, and today I wanted to have a talk with you about how to stay safe during this coronavirus crisis. Um, Before we start, please don't forget, give a thumbs up to this video and subscribe to my channel. Now, let's start. First of all, I'm going to start with the most obvious two things. First of all, respect social distancing. You know, less chances to catch it from somebody, from a sneeze or something. Second of all, wash your hands. Um, Scientists around the world say that the virus is spread through uh, touching something that has been infected, a surface that's been infected, and then taking your hand and putting it at your mouth or at your nose. That's why it's important to wash your hands. Now, continuing along these lines, um, one other important thing is that we should always wear gloves when in public spaces, especially in subways, buses, and mostly in public spaces, because you never know when you're going to put your hand on something uh, and somebody sneezed, or somebody had coronavirus and sneezed or whatever, coughed and spread it on that thing. And this way, at least when you get home, you take your gloves off, and you throw them away, or you wash them or whatever, and you should be safe this way. Now, let's say you're in a social meeting and you have to take off your gloves because maybe you have to shake somebody's hand. Best idea would be to avoid that. The next best idea is, if you're going to shake somebody's hand or put your hands on something in a public space and then put your gloves back on, well, before putting your gloves back on, would be a good idea to wash your hands thoroughly or disinfect them. Now, the World Health Organization said that if we are to use gloves in public spaces, a good idea would be to change them daily. You know, especially if you're not using especially if we are not using one-time use gloves, latex gloves or surgical gloves. It is a good idea, especially if you're using something like knitted gloves or whatever. It's a good idea to change them daily, because this way you can wash them, put them aside, and then take them back a couple of days later. Well, one more thing is one more idea is about wearing the masks. You know, those little surgical masks that don't really fit on people's faces. Well, from what I understood, the World Health Organization said that those masks are pretty much useless They do not filter a large amount of particles. Their filtration is very limited. Hospitals are instructed to use 95% filtration masks, N95 masks, the masks that are fitted on the user's face. And the idea is that if we are to use the surgical masks, those rectangular one that barely fit on your face, they are not very useful. Of course, they will not filter out the viruses in the air if somebody sneezes towards you. The only thing that they are going to do is actually help you keep your hands off your face. And that might be important for most of us, because until you don't try to not touch your face, you don't realize how often we do it and how hard it is not to touch our faces. Well, guys, I'm kind of reading out of the site of the World Health Organization, and another thing they were talking about is the towels in our houses, especially if we have somebody in the family that is showing signs of an influenza or a cold. It is especially important to remove the towels from the bathroom and not actually removing the towels. To not keep clean towels in our bathrooms, and to wash them every other day, the towels we use. And every member of the family should only use its own towel, not use another person's towel, because towels are, let's say that they are like sponges, and they absorb humidity, and bathrooms are a humid and warm place. That makes it one of the perfect places for bacteria and viruses to develop. So that is why it's important to wash the towels as often as possible, and not use your husbands or kids, or the kids to use the parents' towels. Each person in the household with its own towel. That's what the World Health Organization says. One other thing they say that we should be we should pay attention to is actually the doorknobs. Well, especially in public buildings or public spaces, many people put their hands on the doorknobs, and you don't know how the person before you sneezed in his hand, and then put the hand on the doorknob. So, if we are to use doorknobs, and we will certainly have to use doorknobs because we have to open and close doors, the World Health Organization says the best idea would be to open the door with your elbow if you can, or wear gloves whenever handling a doorknob, and or if you have to do it with your bare hands, after you did it, after you touched the doorknob in a public space especially, go wash your hands thoroughly. And between putting your hand on the doorknob and washing your hands, try not to put your hands on your face. This is equally important if there is somebody sick in the household. If somebody developed a cold right now, and you believe that they may have coronavirus and you have to live with them, Um, Try to clean the doorknobs as much as possible, not put your hands on them, and yeah, try and limit contact. Um, One other advice that I'm reading here is about sharing meal and sharing utensils, eating utensils. Um, it is kind of important right now. Let's say you're sharing a meal with your co-workers. You have to go to work and you have to share a meal with your co-workers. Always use your own utensils, and if there, for example, if there is a bowl of salad or whatever, and you have to take food from a common place and put it in your on your plate, don't use the utensils you're eating with. Use a clean utensil used only for taking the salad or whatever from the bowl to your plate, then return it and use your utensils, your fork, your spoon to eat from your own plate. For example, in China, it is common for people to take from a common bowl using their own chopsticks and to put food in their plate, um, and then eat with those chopsticks or eat directly from the common bowl. That shouldn't happen right now, because you don't know how you might have the coronavirus, not have symptoms, and this way you're spreading it to others. Now another thing I'm reading here is about ventilating your house. Well, it seems that it's best to ventilate our houses as much as possible, and as long as it's not very cold outside, just keep your window open, ventilate the house, because it seems that viruses don't like to live in ventilated places. They can't hold on to things and they just fly out the window sometimes in a kind of manner. It actually says that viruses cannot linger in a well-ventilated space. Of course, if it's cold outside, if it's raining, if it's snowing, don't. You'll catch a cold, and then it's going to fuck up your mind, because you're not going to know if you got a coronavirus or you've got a common cold. Now, there is also the case when you have to take care of a friend or a family member that got sick of the coronavirus. Well, it seems that in these cases, the World Health Organization said that both people should be wearing N95 masks at least. You shouldn't touch them unless you have gloves on. You should be wearing an apron, a disposable apron. If you're going to wash the patient's face, do it while wearing latex gloves, and do it using a disposable paper towel or cotton swabs. Throw that immediately away. The sick person should be isolated as much as possible, and also, of course, if the weather permits it, the rooms in which the patient sits should be ventilated to the best ability possible. So that's pretty much everything. Now, I know most of us are kind of prepared for the worst and hoping for the best. That's the way it is. I hope none of you get into any health problems during this period. Of course, I hope none of you get into any health problems, period. If any of this advice made you think helped you, please give this video a like, please subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.